Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. So this channel, Every Data Science, is all about trying to learn the different concepts involved in data science by practicing a lot of questions. In this video, I'm going to solve this question on status query regarding user with most approved flags, both using Python as well as MySQL, and try to walk you through how we can develop solutions to such problems. The difficulty level of this question is medium. This question has been asked in Google interviews, and it's a great question if you are preparing for data engineer, data scientist, BI analyst, data analyst, ML engineer, or software engineer interviews. Okay, let's jump right in. The question reads, which user flagged the most distinct videos that ended up approved by YouTube? Output in one column their full name or names in case of a tie. In the user's full name, include a space between the first and the last name. So we are given two data frames, user flags and flag review, and expected output is a pandas series, which has basically the username separated by a space, right, for the people who were able to flag most number of distinct videos which were also approved. Okay, so let's look at the data frame. So user flags has four different columns: user first name, last name, video ID, and the flag ID. And then there is another data frame, flag review, which has flag ID, whether it was reviewed by YouTube, on what date it was reviewed, and the outcome, so removed or approved. Okay, since both the information that we need is segregated in two different data frames, the first thing we should do is we should use the flag ID column of the flag review as well as the user flag data frames and try to merge the information at one place. So what we can do is we can do, okay, user flags dot merge, right? Merge, the second one is flag review, right? So flag review, since the name of the column is same in both of these, so we can simply just go ahead and write on flag ID, right? On flag ID. How you can do left, you can do inner, like it does not matter. I usually go with left, right? So how is equal to left, so that we are keeping every user name and user last name from the user flags. That is why I'm doing left. Okay, let me go ahead and run this. Let's see what we get. So now you have user first name, last name, video ID, flag ID, whether it was reviewed by YouTube, date, and reviewed outcome. So now you have the required information, but we are not concerned about every of these rows, right? We are only concerned about, whether the finally that video was ended up being approved by YouTube or not, right? So firstly, we need to do that, okay, whether it was reviewed by YouTube, and if yes, it was reviewed, then what was the outcome, right? So reviewed outcome should be equal to approved as well. So let's save this in a data frame called df, right? And then try to perform a two level of boolean indexing. So df new, right? Df new is equal to df, right? And then first thing is, so df of reviewed by YouTube is equal to true, right? And one thing that you might get confused is, so here you have all caps in reviewed by YouTube, right? But here it is not like that, but still it is going to work. Why? Because that is where these data types come into picture, right? So if you look at the the column, right? So reviewed by YouTube, it is a boolean value, right? So true and false. So even though it is displaying all caps, it is actually like this, right? Okay, so this, and then you also need to make sure, okay, when it is reviewed by YouTube, then what the reviewed outcome should also be approved, right? Because that is what we care about. So how can we do that? We can simply do multiplication. So the another way of writing and is, so basically if this is true, so it will give what? The value 1, right? And if it is multiplied by another true value, so 1 cross 1 is equal to 1. In all other cases, it will come out to be 0, right? And that is where we are performing that boolean indexing, that hey, the first condition as well as the second condition should be true, right? So multiply this by, again, df of the name of this column is reviewed outcome, right? So reviewed outcome is equal to approved, right? Okay, and if this is done, then let me return df new. Let's see what do we get. So now if you look at it, so it has only those rows where reviewed by YouTube is true and reviewed outcome is approved, right? So now once we have this, then what we need to do is, since we need to group by the user first name plus last name and then try to count the various video IDs, but we don't have a column which has both the first name and last name separated by a space. So let's go ahead and make it, and let's name that column with whatever is required in the output. So it is called username. So let's make a column called user name, which is basically what, df of user first name, right? Since this is a string, you can just go ahead and add this, right? So first name, then a space, and then you do the last name, right? So user last name, right? And let me okay, I'll say this should be df new because we saved this as df new. Okay, so df new, and let's see whether the new column was added or not. Let me run this. So now if you look at it, you have a username. Now what we need to do is, once we have this, then what we can do is we can just go ahead, group by the name of the user or username, and then from video ID count the distinct values. Now you might be, this might be confusing to some people, that why we are counting distinct of video ID and not flag ID. Doesn't the question say user with most approved flags? Actually, that is where the language of the question becomes important. This is asking which user flagged the most distinct videos that ended up being approved by the YouTube. The question is not asking the maximum number of flags. It is asking the maximum number of videos that were flagged, distinct videos that were flagged that ended up being approved, right? So that is what is required. So if you look at this one, right? So for Richard Hansen, right? There are two different flag IDs, right? For the same video, right? So if you go by the flag logic, so this person is flagging three different number of times. So 1, 2, and if you look at it, 3. But the number of distinct YouTube videos the person is flagging, it is only 2. One, this, and these two are basically the same videos, right? So that is what the question is asking you about. That is most distinct videos that were flagged which ended up being approved. So that is why we need to count the distinct values in the video ID and not the flag ID column, right? So let's go ahead and group by the username, right? And then take the video ID column, right? And then count the number of unique values. If you do dot count, it will count all values, but we need to count unique values. So we do n unique, right? And since we grouped by, then to have that value or have this name in the column, we need to reset index. So reset index, and let's run this. Let's see what do we get. So various usernames, and so although this name of the column is video ID, but is actually the number of unique videos. So Mark May has 2 and Richard Hassan has 2 unique videos that were flagged that ended up being approved by YouTube. So obviously now what we need to do is we need to only keep the usernames where this value is maximum, right? So let's save this in a data frame called final, and then from final let's perform a boolean indexing where final of value video of column video ID is equal to the maximum value of that column, right? So video ID dot max, and at the output we are only required to keep the username column, right? So we return the username. Let me go ahead and run this. Let's see what do we get. So now you have username. So these people were able to flag the most number of distinct videos which ended up being approved by the YouTube. Okay, so let me go ahead and submit it. So let's pass all the test cases. So yeah, everything is green, and this is how we do it. Now let's look at how the corresponding code looks like in MySQL. Okay, so if you look at it, same question, right? Two different tables, user flags, flag review, expected output is same as well. And if you look at these tables, user flags as well as the flag review table, so you have the same number of columns, same values in the rows, etc. So here also, since the output or since the data is stored in two different tables, the first thing that we should do is we should merge the information. So from the user flags aliased as u, let's left join the flag review table, right? The flag review table aliased as f on u dot flag id is equal to f dot flag id, right? Let me go ahead and run this. So now you have all the information, right? But we are only required to keep those rows where reviewed by YouTube is equal to 1, right? So it was reviewed by the YouTube, and also reviewed outcome is equal to approved. So we can go ahead and write, okay, out of all these, keep only those rows where reviewed by YouTube, which belongs to the flag review column or table, right? Flag review table. So we write f dot reviewed by YouTube is equal to 1, right? And f dot reviewed outcome is equal to approved, right? Let me go ahead and see if we are able to keep only those rows, right? So now if you look at it, reviewed by YouTube and ended up being approved. Now from this, what we need to return is the user names which had the maximum number of distinct count of video ID. So we can go ahead and group by. Here you do not need to make another column. If you want, you can, but here, like in SQL, you don't have to do that extra step that, hey, I need to make another column which has a space between the first name and last name. You can just use the concat function within the group by itself. So what I'm saying is you can write, okay, group by, and before grouping by, what you do is concat the first name or user first name, then a space, then user last name, right? Group by concatenation of this, return the same thing, right? So copy this, paste it here, and let's alias this as whatever is required in our output, which is username, right? So username, and then count the distinct video IDs. So count distinct video ID, and let's alias this as number or num or whatever, right? And let's order this order by number in decreasing. You don't need to do the order by, but this is just for explanation purposes. So let me run this. Let's see what do we get. So you have various usernames and the number of videos, distinct videos that they flagged, and it was approved. So once you have this, then what we can do is we can save this entire thing in a common table expression. So with CTE as, and then this entire thing goes into parentheses, right? And then from this common table expression, let's keep only those rows where number is equal to return maximum value of number from CTE, right? And you return the username because that is what we need in the output. Let me run this. So now you have username and our output is same as expected output. Let me go ahead and submit it to pass all the test cases. So yeah, everything is green, and this is how we do it. So not a very difficult question. All we had to do was, firstly we merged the entire information at one place using the flag ID column, and then made sure that, okay, we are only dealing with those rows where it was reviewed by YouTube and the outcome was approved. And once we were able to get that, then what we did was we basically made a new column in case of Python, and in case of MySQL, we just concatenated the user first name, a space between them, and the user last name, right? And then counted the number of distinct video IDs and only kept those rows where count of the distinct video ID is maximum, right? So this is how I do it. Let me know if there is a better way or a more efficient way you can think of to solve this question. Let the solution be in the comment section below, and I will see you guys in the next video.